We see Ryuk coming up from the floor of Minoru's house and touch the death note to his head. And boom! Minoru says, "I'm going to sell the death note." Ryuk going to the White House to give the death note to Mr. Donald Trump. Death Note, an absolute masterpiece which ended in 2007. But till this day, there is no season 2 of this anime. But what if I tell you the series didn't end? There is an original, continuous manga of season 2 by the original author himself, in which Ryuk comes to Earth again after Light's death and gives the death note to someone else. Who defeated Nier and the FBI agents and flipped the whole world without even using the book? Watch the full video and you'll see how he did it. You will also see a cameo of Mr. Trump and the Chinese president. Alright, so the story kicks off in 2013 in the Shinigami world, and a Shinigami is telling Ryuk, "I didn't succeed like you did, Ryuk. Want your death note back?" Ryuk said, "I'll take it back, but you have something for me, right?" "Yeah. This sucker just wants apples." The Shinigami hands Ryuk an apple. After finishing it, Ryuk's brain hit dopamine, and he got greedy for more. So, he went to the human world to get entertained and to eat more apples. Just look at the artwork, man! While reading it, I really felt goosebumps. Now fast forward 6 years later. We see Ryuk coming up from the floor of Minoru's house and touch the death note to his head. And boom! All of Minoru's lost memories came back to him. After seeing this, Minoru looked surprised and said, "It's been 2 years, Ryuk replied. "Exactly. I kept my promise and I came like you said." Now let's jump back to 2 years ago, where we see Minoru scored 142 marks in his IQ test. And everyone was saying he might be the smartest middle school student of Japan. But here's the funny part. He scored 28 marks in English. Minoru was regretting how dumb he was, and suddenly the death note fell from the sky and hit his head, and he saw Ryuk, the Shinigami of death. Ryuk said, "I heard you're pretty smart." Minoru was like, "Huh?" Ryuk continued, "Your teachers were saying you are the smartest middle school student of Japan." Minoru understood Ryuk was talking about the IQ exam. So, he replied, "I play IQ test games. That's why my IQ is higher than others, but scoring good grades in IQ tests doesn't mean I'm smart. Because the people who are actually smart are solving problems that pertain the future. Any teacher who says scoring high marks in the exam makes you smart is an idiot." Well said, bro. I totally agree with you. Ryuk doesn't get what Minoru meant, so he asked, "Are you an idiot?" Minoru made this weird face and answered, "I'm a terrible student. But it doesn't mean I'm an idiot. I just like to solve puzzles and quizzes, that's all." Ryuk suggested, "Let's go to your house and talk there. And don't worry, no one except you can see me." Minoru agreed and brought Ryuk to his house. Once inside, Ryuk handed the death note to Minoru and explained, "This is the power of Kira," which made Minoru freak out. And he loudly said, "No way! You mean the Kira? The Kira who eliminated war and greatly reduced crime rates?" Ryuk got nervous. "Hey, stop shouting. People can't hear my voice, but they can hear yours." And he also asked, "How do you know him?" Minoru responded, "Everyone knows him. He was in my history textbook in my elementary school, and we studied him in world history in middle school." Ryuk seemed a little surprised and asked, "They treat him like one of the great." Minoru confronted Ryuk that he was wrong, because in history it is meant that Kira is evil, and in world history, Kira is described as a mass-murdering terrorist in the world in recent history. But there are also some people who say Kira was a god. Minoru asked Ryuk, "How can this book make people a god like Kira?" Ryuk said, "The instructions are on the first page. Just read them." Minoru said, "What the f***? Why is it in English? Translate them." Ryuk was like, "Seriously, man. Bro, what kind of illiterate are you? Even the dumbest boy in my class can score higher than him in an English test." Okay, coming back to the story. Ryuk translated all of the instructions, and after reading it and the writings of Kira, Minoru got shocked and understood how it worked and how Kira managed to fulfill all of his intentions without being caught by L and the police. Minoru wanted to know more about Kira, but Ryuk said, "I'd like to eat an apple." Man, he wants nothing with the rest of the world. He just wants to eat apples. Minoru hands him one apple, and after eating it, Ryuk said, "I can't share personal details, but I'll tell everything I remember." Ryuk told everything about Kira. How he used the death note, how he manipulated people, added fake rules, killed people, killed L, everything. Hearing this, Minoru got impressed by Kira's smartness, and he thinks, if I do the same thing he did, I'll get caught because 10 years ago when Kira used his death note, there wasn't that much security. But now there are security cameras in every corner of the country. If I try to use the internet, police will track me down, and police have taps on all phones and phone calls, so can't use that too. But I'm sure Kira would have come up with a way to use the death note that still works on this day and age. Exactly. If Kira was in the present day, he could definitely come up with a plan to use the death note, because it isn't the death note which made Kira a god. It is his godlike strategic thinking that made him a god. Ryuk asked, Can you do it, Minoru? Minoru understood that Ryuk wants him to use the Death Note like Light used it, but personally, he doesn't want to use the Death Note. He also thinks if he gives someone else the notebook or returns it to Ryuk, he'll lose ownership and his memories of it. Also, if he returns it back to Ryuk, he'll just give it to someone else. Minoru became calm and went into deep thought. Ryuk asked, "You haven't said anything for a few hours." Minoru said, "I have 2 questions for you. First one, are there any other people who can see you besides me?" Ryuk answered, "Yes. In the past, some people touch the book so they can see. If someone gives up the ownership of the Death Note, he can't see me. But if someone just touched the book, they still can see me." In the anime, we saw some detectives near L and this girl Misa touched it so they can still see Ryuk. Oh yeah, he is confirmed dead, and she is speculated to be dead, so we should care a little less. Minoru asked the second question, how far can a Shinigami stay away from the owner of the Death Note? Ryuk said it's a very tricky question. There isn't any rule, but to be specific for you, 14 kilometers may be right to say. Upon hearing, Minoru said, "I have decided I'm going to return the Death Note for now, so come back after 2 years. In 2 years, I'll use the Death Note and I promise to give you an apple every day." Ryuk was like, huh? I have to be an apple withdrawal for 2 years? Minoru told, "If you can't wait that long, then give the book to someone else." Ryuk said, okay, man, I'll come in 2 years. And Minoru handed over the book to Ryuk and lost his ownership. Alright, so the flashback ends and we're back in the present day. Ryuk says, "I went without apples for 2 years. Minoru says, "Okay, I can go with the plan I thought of 2 years ago. I'm going to sell the Death Note." Ryuk looks surprised. Minoru explained, "I'm going to sell the book in an auction online." Ryuk says, "That sounds fun. But you were the one who said 2 years ago that everything on the internet can be tracked." Minoru clarified, "I'm not going to use the internet. You said you can stay 14 kilometers far from..." Well, Sakura TV is 11 kilometers from here. "I'm gonna have you go there and then in English..." No wait, then I can't read it. Japanese then. "Use a pen and paper from the TV station and display my message." Bro, it's been 2 years and this dude still can't read English. Like seriously, not even a little bit. The scene shifts at Sakura TV and a piece of paper is floating in midair in which is written, "The power to remotely kill people as used by Kira is being put up for auction. If you want to buy it, use the hashtag #PowerOf Kira on Twitter and indicate your bid amount in American dollars." Everyone was like, what the fish? How is the paper floating like that? Minoru watches the live broadcast at home and how Ryuk is holding the paper. Matsuda, one of the detectives from the Kira case we saw in the anime, saw Ryuk and rushed to the deputy commissioner and shouted, "Ryuk is back and he is trying to sell the Death Note." The deputy commissioner was like, huh? Someone got the Death Note? Minoru told Ryuk to hold the paper for 30 seconds, and after 30 seconds, we see Ryuk leaving the place from down the floor. The very next day in Minoru's class, everyone was talking about the Sakura TV incident. It hasn't been a day, and we see people are bidding $3 million online. In the next panel, some officers went to L to discuss about Kira. Yeah, this L isn't the real L. Now L means a position which Nier now holds, but what the hell? Why doesn't he cut his hair? At first, the officers asked if the Kira news was true. Nier replied, "Yes, it's true. I can see the Shinigami." And in the office, Nier was building a replica of Ryuk to create a facial recognition system on all the CCTV cameras. And he says, "Let's call the person who is selling the Death Note Akira." Nier's plan was to follow Ryuk by the CCTV and catch Akira, especially when he'll hand over the Death Note. However, Nier knows it's essentially impossible to find that footage from all of the cameras in Japan, only using the help of people who can see Shinigami. And based on the past Kira incident, Nier speculated that a Shinigami can't stay far away from the owner. So he assumed Akira and the Shinigami both are in Japan. The officer mentioned he'll arrange tickets to Japan because they have to catch Akira. Nier says, "Catch? Assume we caught Kira, but how will we charge him for his crimes? In the past, I called the Death Note the worst murder weapon in human history, but weapons of mass murder are traded around the world every day. I would assume that killing someone with the notebook is a crime, but it doesn't seem like selling one. In other words, they can't charge Akira because he didn't kill anyone yet." Nier told the officer if they want to seize the notebook, they should find the person who won it after the auction is over. This officer asked L, "Then why are you trying to track the Shinigami?" Nier explained, Akira is extremely smart. He has professional interest in Akira and he wants to meet him. And if they wish to help, please get in touch with Mr. Aizawa to have yesterday's interior security camera footage from Sakura TV and sent over. Nier's group and Aizawa meeting after 6 years. The officer asked Aizawa, "What did the Shinigami do?" Mr. Aizawa said, "After throwing away the sheet of paper with the message on it, it passed through the bottom of the second floor studio, then the first floor, then the basement parking lot." Nier figures out that if Ryuk is traveling between Akira to Sakura TV Underground, then he can't do anything, and the Shinigami face recognition system won't be of any help. So he destroyed the Ryuk dummy. Nier says, if the Shinigami appears on any camera footage aside from the TV studio, it will be when he's handing over the book to the buyer. But at that moment, Akira will have parted ways with the notebook, and we can presume that any memory of all of this will be gone. It's a very well-constructed plan. The officer asked, so, we cannot catch them? Nier replied, if we want to catch them as Akira, it must be at the moment between getting the money and letting go of the notebook. He also says, it would be easier to figure it out by detecting whoever gets the money after the auction is complete, but I feel like that would be admitting defeat in a way. Also, this was planned thoroughly enough that it will be impossible to detect the money changing hands. So, we need to track down who wins the auction. Let's sit down and watch for now. Meanwhile, Ryuk tells Minoru that his plan is going very well. Minoru says, yeah, it's up to nearly 10 billion yen now, but I'm trying not to pay too much attention to it. Ryuk asked, when will the bidding be over? And I'll stop getting apples? The scene shifts to Ryuk once more holding a piece of paper in which it is written that the auction will be over in a week. And suddenly Matsuda came rushing and started warning people not to buy Kira's power. Meanwhile, Ryuk was like, hey, it's been a while, how are you, bro? The news reporter asked, hey, aren't you the guy from a few years ago who appeared on our show and claimed to know who Kira was? Mister, Matsuda said, that's right. And the power of Kira is a freaking terrifying thing indeed. Because of Matsuda's warning about Kira's power, now people were convinced that the auction was a real deal. And Matsuda was put on desk duty for his reckless action and to keep him out of the media. Now here's where it gets crazy. The next day at Minoru's school, the students were talking, wow, after Matsuda went on TV yesterday, it's up to 200 billion freaking dollars. And this bidding wasn't made by a single person. Perhaps it was made by a group or a nation because no one is this rich. And while they were talking, the bidding rose to $300 billion. The next day, with Ryuk's help, Minoru shared a new message that now the bidding person doesn't need to use Twitter. He can just show himself and bid the money in the media. And guess who came first to bid? None other than the Nobel Peace Prize owner.
My friend, a great American president, Mr. Donald Trump.
And what did Mr. Trump say? In 2005, an FBI director and a boy named Nier testified that Kira's power was a notebook that would kill a person if you wrote their name in it. If it is true, we can't allow any other nation to get their hands on it. And he bidded $500 billion. After that, China's president came and bidded $1 trillion and promised to use it for peaceful ends. After that, Mr. Trump bidded $2 trillion and promised to never use it for world peace. Meanwhile, the press asking Japan's president, is it possible to hold a summit of world leaders to ensure no country buys it? The president replied, let's not kid ourselves with idealistic statements. We all know some government is going to end up with it, and whatever country says don't buy it will be the first to turn around. Mr. President is absolutely right, and we know why he said that. The next day, Mr. Trump again bidded a quadrillion yen, which is equivalent to Japan's national debt. If you want to know how much a quadrillion yen is in current day, then look. Minoru tells Ryuk, tomorrow I'm ending the auction. Once I've confirmed the money is in, I'm discarding ownership of the notebook, and I need you to deliver to the buyer. Ryuk says, okay, but I won't get any more apples after that, right? Next scene, we see the agents asking Nier how Akira would receive all the money. Nier replied, it's impossible to pay or receive that amount in bills. It'll have to be an online transaction. Even an anonymous account attempting to draw it will leave a trace, but Akira is very smart. He obviously has a plan. Nier also figured out that Akira doesn't want to use the notebook, because with the power of the notebook, the wielder can control people for 23 days, but he won't do that to get the money. Because if money was the main goal, Akira wouldn't have done the auction. Akira doesn't want to kill people to gain money. But wait, hold up. At Minoru's house, a Shinigami just appeared behind Ryuk. Oh my god, just look at the freaking design. Ryuk asked, Harmonia Justin, why are you here? The Shinigami replied, the Shinigami King is calling. You have to leave as soon as you are able to leave the side of your human. The next day, Minoru displays a new message in Sakura TV that Kira's power has been sold to the USA president for this amount of dollars. Whatever the amount is, just look and count by yourself, and the method of transferring the amount will be revealed in 24 hours. After seeing the message and the amount, everyone's jaw dropped. Back at Nier's place, the agent warned, following our plan would mean trying to seize the notebook from our own government. But Nier said, yeah, if you want to do that, do it by yourself. The agent asked, by myself? But why? Nier replied, because I'm busy watching Rent a Girlfriend. Okay, Nier replied, because I live in America now. Also, the whole world knows who has the notebook, so it'll be harder to use it. Besides, isn't the more pressing issue at the moment how Akira will handle the transaction? Also, the money will be transferred tomorrow. 24 hours from now in Japanese time is 6 p.m. Friday, May 24th. That means the bank would be closed for 3 days because the bank stays closed Saturday and Sunday. The next day, Minoru shared a final message at Sakura TV in which it's written, "The money from the winning bid should be deposited by May 17th of this year in equal amount to every person with a Yotsuba Bank of Japan savings account and registered residence in Tokyo, age 60 and under, as of the date of May 24th, 2019. In short, those who are under age 60 and have an account in Yotsuba Bank will receive the split bidded money. That's 1 billion yen per person." Minoru's mom rushingly goes towards Minoru and asked, "You have a savings account in Yotsuba Bank, right?" Minoru said, "Huh, yeah." And mom said, "We are filthy rich now." After the news, the people of Japan got fucked up. We see those who have an account in Yotsuba Bank are praising God Kira, some trying to withdraw the billion yen, some trying to open a new bank account, but the bank is closed. Meanwhile, Near saying, once 3 days pass after handing over the death note, Akira will not remember ever being Akira. For the first time since becoming L, I must admit my defeat. Did you guys see? Near admits his defeat. Minoru defeated Near without even using the death note. W Minoru. But don't think you are better than my boy Light, bitch. Finally, USA transferred all the money to the bank. People were storming to withdraw the money. To avoid the chaos, Yotsuba Bank announced that to divide the money and people able to withdraw the money, they need 1 month. So for 1 month, all the accounts in Yotsuba Bank are frozen. And after 1 month, people will be able to withdraw up to 100,000 yen per day. Now everything is done, it's time to give the notebook. So Minoru told Ryuk to give the notebook to the president of USA, and after that, don't ever show me your face ever again. Now I'm gonna forget all of this and live a happy life. Ryuk said, "Man, I didn't realize you hate me this much." Now guys, you're not ready for what happens next. Ryuk going to the White House to give the death note to Mr. Donald Trump. Now for the twist. Ryuk starts telling Trump, "I actually got yelled at by the Shinigami King before I came here." He said, "How could you let him sell the death note in the human world?" So there's been a new rule added. A human who buys or sells the death note in the human world will die. The seller will die when they receive the money, and the buyer will die when they receive the death note. Mr. Trump was like, "What the f?" Ryuk said, "So, basically you paid all this money to die. But if you refuse to take the notebook, I'll treat it as if you didn't buy it. But at this point, you're not going to get the money back. Now, if you do take the book and die, the book will remain here and it will still belong to your nation. So, what's the plan?" Mr. President? Mr. Trump said, "I refuse to take the book." Ryuk said, "So, you value your life over your country?" Mr. Trump is smart. So he said, "I'll announce that I have gained the power of Kira, but I refuse to use it. It'll make me look like a saint." Ryuk left the place and was thinking, what to do now? Minoru doesn't know about the new rule, and he told me not to show my face ever again. 1 month later, we see Minoru laying dead at the Yotsuba Bank. How? It's because of the new added rule. He received the money, so he died. And Ryuk was the one who wrote his name in his death note under Light's name. And in the end, Ryuk thinks, isn't there anyone who will use this thing for a bit longer than that? I'm telling you, in the whole Death Note series, Ryuk is the main villain. Give your ratings on this one-shot chapter. Personally, I've enjoyed a lot, so for me, it's a solid 8.5 out of 10. There is also a one-shot sequel chapter of the Death Note manga, which tells what happened 3 years after it all ended by the original author. If you want to know what happened after Kira and L died and who actually won, then comment Death Note and I'll upload the video. Also comment, who do you think is the smartest between L, Kira, and Minoru? For now, here are some other videos of mine. Click it, and I'll see you there.